Do you ever feel like you have to do everything right for others? Do you constantly put other people's needs before your own? Do you feel extremely guilty when you can't do what others might expect of you? Do you constantly apologize to others? Do you allow others to overstep your boundaries? Or don't you have any boundaries at all? If you answered some or even all of these questions with a yes, you are a people pleaser. Now, being a people pleaser is not a fixed term, but I think we all know what is meant by it. But where does it come from? Is it even that bad? And what can you do to watch out for yourself and your own needs a little bit more? Let's start by watching this brief clip from Mel Robbins where she says why saying no to others is absolutely crucial and means saying yes to yourself.
Bottom line, people pleasing, it's not about the other people, it's about you. So notice when it comes up. Notice that discomfort. Find the strength to say no. I'm not going to sit here with this discomfort and do something that doesn't serve me. When you have the ability to recognize this, and you have the ability to say no, I'm not going to just fall into line. No means that you're in charge of your life. No strengthens your self-discipline. No keeps your goals and your happiness front and center. It can make you stronger so that you change patterns and habits that don't serve you. Because when you don't say no, you're saying yes to something else. It is powerful. When you say no, I am not going to do that. I'm going to ride this uncomfortable wave and I'm going to do what works for me. And I'm going to know at the end that you can be disappointed and you're still going to love me, but I'm going to love myself a little bit more. Because every time you say yes to you, you are proving to yourself that you deserve to be happy. You deserve to have support.
The little word no is extremely powerful and can completely change your life. It's showing to yourself on a subconscious level that you love yourself enough to put your goals and your happiness first. Obviously, you can always think about exceptions for that, but generally, you should put yourself first. But Philip, I always want to be there for others and help them and don't care that much about myself and stop. That's exactly the problem. Even if you want to be there for others, you still need to put yourself first because others deserve you at your best. And you have so much more to give if you give to yourself first. If you have huge trouble saying no, or it feels almost impossible for you, then first pause, just as Mel Robbins explains in this next clip.
You don't have to say yes. You're going to go from saying, sure, I'll let you borrow my car, or sure, we'll come to Thanksgiving, or sure, I'll do that, or yes, 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 yes. Instead of saying no, switch it to a pause. I'll think about it. Let me check my calendar. I'll get back to you on that. When you switch your yes to a pause and you buy yourself some time, you're going to feel a little less pressure. For example, when you say, let me get back to you, 20 minutes later, you can email back and say, thank you so much for the invitation, I'm booked. Or send no over text if it's too hard to say it in person. Or say no over the phone if you don't want to say it to their face. But switching from feeling the pressure to say yes to putting yourself in a pause, that's what I want you to practice. Because if you can say, I'll get back to you, let me think about it. You got time to settle those uncomfortable feelings. Because remember, it's not about the other person. It's about you not being able to tolerate that discomfort that rises up. And then you immediately make the discomfort going away by going, oh, okay, fine, I'll do it. No. Switch into pause. Switch into pause, because in that pause, you're going to find some peace.
Start by saying you will think about it instead of saying yes. If you actually want to say no, this can help you tremendously. And if it's easier for you to then say no over text, do that. If it's easier for you to say no with some kind of justification, do that. Obviously, the goal is that at one point you can say that in person, but for the beginning, make it as easy for yourself as you possibly can. In any case, you have to start working on being able to tolerate some uncomfortable feelings. This is something that you really need to start working on, because uncomfortable feelings are a normal part of life. Listen to what Mel has to say about feeling guilty here.
What if the guilt doesn't go away? What if guilt is actually a good thing? What if guilt is super healthy to feel right now? In fact, that's what I believe. I believe that the guilt is good. I believe that the guilt is healthy. And I believe that you can reframe it. See, guilt shows that you care. That's why you feel that way. If you were a narcissistic douchebag, you wouldn't feel guilty at all for putting yourself first. I want to frame guilt in a different way for you, okay? Let's frame it from a bad sign. Ooh, I'm doing something bad. I'm putting myself first, into a good one. Stop seeing guilt as a bad thing because you're not doing anything wrong when you put yourself first. Start seeing guilt as a good thing. Guilt is a sign that you're breaking free of this people-pleasing habit. You feel guilty because putting yourself first is just a new feeling.
And what she says is true, but we have to differentiate that a little bit more. Yes, feeling guilty is absolutely normal, especially if you are not used to saying no or putting yourself first at all. But we want to understand that there are two different kinds of negative feelings. First, we have normal negative feelings, and then we have, well, I just make N for not normal negative feelings. Now this is, for example, you stay on the street and a car is racing right at you and you feel anxiety because you're about to get hit by a car. Very normal negative feeling because there's a car coming at you. Now this would be you stay on the sidewalk and the car is racing right next to you, right? Or just driving normally next to you, past you, and you stay on the sidewalk. If anxiety comes up here, this would be not an appropriate feeling to the situation that you see in front of you. This is a good indication that there's a trigger and past trauma connected to the situation that happens there. So if you feel guilty for putting yourself first, especially if you're not used to doing that, that's normal and appropriate to the situation, and you have to learn to endure that. But if you feel so much guilt, shame and anxiety that you barely can't breathe or even almost feel like dying when you're about to say no, that is a good indication that there are deeper traumatic issues inside of you. That, of course, you can also learn to endure. You can always learn that, but you can make it much, much easier for yourself if you go actually to the root cause of these feelings and then resolve them. We'll talk more about how you can resolve these feelings at the end of this video. But for now, it's also important to understand that everyone that you meet and know over a certain period of time gets used to you, to that version of you and how you behave. So these people develop certain expectations of you because you have shown them, hey, that's who you are. For example, always putting yourself last and putting them first and doing everything for them. When you now start to change that, people might be upset at first, just as Mel explains here.
People who love you, they will be annoyed with you when you put yourself first. It is true. They are not going to like it. They like you being the person that you are right now. It is convenient for them that you put them first. It is wonderful, the dynamic that's in place, but it's no longer good for you. So just expect that the people who you love will be annoyed or disappointed or upset when you start putting yourself first. But they're still going to love you. It's not an either or thing.
They are still going to love you, but you need to give them some time to adjust to your changed behavior. Important, giving them time to adjust does not mean that you fall back into your old people-pleasing behavior. No. Giving them time to adjust does mean that it's okay if they are upset for a while. But if they keep staying upset and if they keep overstepping or trying to overstep your boundaries, you will need to take consequences. Again, people who love you will still love you, and they will get used to you putting yourself first, and they will accept that after a period of adjustment. If they are not, if they keep staying upset, if they keep overstepping your boundaries, if they even start withdrawing their love or their friendship or whatever it is, here's the harsh truth for you. These people have never loved you and have never been your friend to begin with. They used you. They loved what you could do for them, but not you. And you're better off cutting these people out of your life. Talking about boundaries, what actually is a boundary and how can you set one may sound very simple, but it's probably a bit more complex than you think. Let's listen to Mel and her example first.
You have a boundary to draw, okay? And this boundary works like a frickin' charm because, number one, if they don't want to, they're not going to change. You're just going to wallow. Number two, you can't make them change, so don't even try. And number three, you got to stop being mad about this person not being a person that you want them to be. But you can draw a boundary. And you want to hear the boundary? It's the 6-month rule. Here's what you say. So I'll give you an example from my own life. So I have a friend that got a divorce after a really it was like, one of those divorces is just ugly, ugly. And the divorce was finalized, okay? This friend of mine, every time I saw her, constantly complaining about the ex and the this and the that and the other thing and the other thing and the other thing. And finally, after 6 months, I looked at her and I said, you are no longer allowed to talk about this in front of me. I have recommended therapists. I have been a good friend. I have given you books to read, all of which you have done nothing about. I am no longer available to be a soundboard for your wallowing because it is clear to me that you don't want to do anything about this. The second that you would like to change this, I am here to support you. I am here to help you, but I am not available for you to stay stuck. I care about you too much. So if you'd like to go complain to somebody else, please do, but you are not allowed to bring this person's name up. You are not allowed to talk about your marriage, your ex-marriage, your ex, any of it. I'm not available for that anymore. And an interesting thing will happen. That person will be mortified, and they probably won't call you for a while because they're still addicted to their wallowing. You're not trying to change them. Isn't that interesting? You're not trying to change them. You didn't say stop wallowing. You said, I'm not available for it. So you know who changed in that relationship? You did.
Now, the 6-month period is when someone in your life goes through something harsh and just keeps complaining about it without doing anything about it. You can use it for yourself if you want, but what about everyday boundaries? For example, you used to go out with your friends every Saturday night, but now you would rather stay in and spend time with yourself, at least most of the time. But your friends keep calling you, keep asking you, or maybe even try to make you feel guilty for not going out with them. Here is how you set a boundary. Hey man, are you still not coming out this Saturday? Oh man, it feels like you're not even spending time with us anymore. I haven't seen you in ages. Hey, I totally understand that, and maybe we can spend some time at a different day together. But you keep telling me this now for the 10th time in a row, and honestly, it's getting a little bit annoying. So I'll say it one last time. I will not come out on Saturdays anymore, and I want you to respect that. And that's a clear boundary set. But that's not everything, because what do you do now if your friend keeps pushing, calling you, and making you feel guilty? Well, what do you think makes a boundary a boundary? Consequences. Without consequences, you don't have a boundary. You just have a wish. And I see people missing this all the time. You will never be able to set a boundary if you don't have any consequences in place for what happens when people keep overstepping that boundary. Let's jump back into the example and let's look at consequences here. Hey man, it's me again. Come on, it's just one Saturday. I don't even know what you look like anymore. And aside from that, don't you miss me at all? I thought we were friends, so why don't you want to see me? Hey, I understand that you are upset and you have every right to be, but I am doing this for myself, not against you. And I told you before that it's getting a bit annoying. So if you keep doing that, I will just hang up from now on. Yes, just ending the call. Now, some people might say, oh, it's childish to just hang up. I won't do that. But you also need to keep in mind that unhealthy people, toxic people, And I'm not saying your friend is toxic, but toxic people will keep pushing and they will keep coming at you. So there need to be some form of consequence. And hanging up, just ignoring their call, is a good consequence. And yes, if your friend keeps overstepping your boundary over and over again, he shows that he does not respect you or your boundary. And at one point, the consequence has to be cutting them out and walking away from that relationship. I don't know what it is for you. It might be bigger than going out on Saturdays. It also might be smaller than that. In any case, if your friend repeatedly shows you over a longer period of time that they don't adjust to you, that they don't respect your boundaries, that is not a healthy relationship, friendship, whatever it is to be in. So the consequences for yourself have to be to cut this relationship out of your life. Because only like this you can also subconsciously show yourself that you value yourself more, that you love yourself enough to put yourself first. If you are not willing to walk away from people who are not good for you, who keep overstepping your boundaries, or who keep making you feel bad about yourself, you have quite some self-work to do. And again, I'm not talking about feeling a bit of guilt when cutting someone out. Feeling a bit of guilt is absolutely normal, even if they are toxic or unhealthy for you. But if you absolutely cannot do that, even if they keep overstepping your boundaries, disrespecting you, and even if they are toxic for you, then that's an issue. And I talk in depth where that stems from and what you can do about it to heal these deeper issues in the video right over there. So be sure to check it out.